The New York Mets have finally hired a new general manager. It'll be Jared Porter, who was the assistant GM with the Arizona Diamondbacks. He will now be joining the front office to be under Sandy Alderson and help the Mets do more scouting, make some other decisions. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the hire and what I think about it personally and what it could mean for the Mets as a whole and just some of the things that they have done recently and what there is still left to do. So we know they signed James McCann today. Got a lot of support in that video so far, so I greatly appreciate it. We're getting really close to 500 subscribers, so keep liking and commenting, and I love communicating with you guys. And again, I just really appreciate all the support I've gotten. So let's talk about this hire. In the past couple of days, we're starting to hear who the finalists were. You know, guys like Porter and Billy Owens and other guys still in the mix. It looked like the Mets were kind of deciding between Jared Porter and Zach Scott. So once I heard this news, I decided to listen to Mark Feinstein's podcast about executives and hearing both of these guys be interviewed just to get a better understanding of what their experiences and what their philosophies are. And I was very impressed by both of them. And you know what? I feel like any executive can impress you because all these guys are smart for the most part. I mean, unless you're Brody. But, you know, these guys, they know their baseball. And what I like about Porter is he has experience and he has good experience. He has winning experience, being with organizations that have won in recent years. He was with the Red Sox when he won in 2013. He was with the Cubs and Theo Epstein when they won the World Series. What's interesting about Porter is that he talks a lot about Theo Epstein. You know, he was with him with the Red Sox and was with him with the Cubs. That's really who he learned under. And that's a great person to mentor you because Theo Epstein is probably one of the best executives in all of baseball. It's good to know that that is who he has learned under, you know, someone that has a really established credentials like Epstein. And what I find very fascinating is that this falls more in line with what Cohen talked about in the press conference. He said when it came to hiring the front office, he said, I don't want someone to learn on my dime. And Porter has plenty of experience, so there will be no learning going on. So I definitely think that is a plus compared to Chris Young, who, you know, they were talking about as he might be the guy that could be the GM. Ended up pulling his name out of the running and decided to take the job in Texas with his family and all that. And that's fine. But I do think that I like that Porter has that kind of experience. And I feel like that's what it's going to take because the really important thing to keep in mind is just saying, okay, well, Porter's not really going to have much of an impact on what the Mets decide to do in free agency or in the offseason or things like that. And that's true. He's going to come into this job not having a lot of power. But what he's going to do is that in a couple of years, he may have a lot of power. Once Sandy Alderson decides to step away, he said he might be here for only 2 years. That's what it seems like. That was kind of the agreement him and Steve Cohen came to. That once those 2 years are up, you know, Porter could be the guy that's taking over and is really calling the shots. And I feel like by then, Porter's also going to learn under Sandy Alderson. Porter will just be so experienced by then that you should feel pretty comfortable with him, you know, being in charge. Because one of the good things about Porter is that other teams wanted him. You know, the Cubs wanted him. Obviously, the Diamondbacks felt high about him, having him as the assistant general manager on their team as it was. So Porter is a guy that's been around and been in a lot of organizations and is a name that is thought of very highly. So I definitely think that this was a good hire for the Mets. And one of the interesting things that I found is that Billy Owens was really fascinating name to me only because of the Oakland Athletics ties he and Sandy Alderson have. And I was thinking that, you know, maybe since it's a Sandy guy, he would bring him on because they're friends or whatever. But no. And I think we have to give a lot of credit to Sandy that he did not let his personal biases get in the way of what is best for the team. I found personally that Brodie Van Wagenen far too often was more focused on helping out his previous CAA clients, guys like Jed Lowry and Robinson Cano, getting them on the team instead of doing what's best for the team and getting the guys that could really help. And I believe that, you know what, they were very diligent with this process. They didn't just, you know, hire someone right away. It took a while before the Mets picked a general manager. I know it had to do with the denied access. And I think that going into this job, again, you know you're not going to have that much power. Like Steve Cohen is going to be the guy in charge compared to the Phillies and Dombrowski. Dombrowski has a lot more say with the Phillies than he would with the Mets because of Sandy Alderson. So that definitely is something to keep in mind when you are considering taking this job. One of the other really fascinating things, just as like a side note about Porter's interview that I heard with Mark Feinstein, is that when it came to scouting, he said that the guy that he learned from was Allard Baird. And if you remember, Allard Baird was with the Mets organization with Brodie Van Wagenen and was one of the many executives who got fired once Steve Cohen and Sandy Alderson were official. So I just find it interesting that Baird is someone who was thought about very highly of, but the Mets felt that they had a clean house. And I just found that interesting because it's like, whether it's a Brodie guy or a Wilpon guy, in my opinion, I think you want to try to keep the guys that are smart and know their baseball for your front office because, again, you're thinking, well, what is Porter's job? What are these guys going to do? You have to remember, Sandy Alderson is over 70 years old now. He just came back battling from cancer. He can't be on the road and looking at college prospects and watching the team and, making phone calls to try to trade for Francisco Lindor or all that. Sandy can't do all those things at once. You need other people in your front office to do scouting and do analytic work and the little things like that just around your organization to really make your team function. So that's why you bring on a Porter, and probably why the Mets might make even more front office hires. Maybe not have significant roles, but just have more people, just have more opinions, more evaluators. That's going to be very important, because if the Mets do want to build up their farm system and they want to change up the organization, they want to build up the analytics, building up your front office is a really good way to do that. So I have no problem with this hire, because again, I like that he has experience, not like Brodie was a first-time experiment, guys trying to take over. And again, we know that Sandy is the one calling the shots. So you don't have to worry about, is Porter going to change what's going on too much? Not quite yet, there still is a possibility that maybe next year the Mets try the president of baseball operations thing again, and that person has more say than Porter. There is no set in stone the way the Mets are going to operate the front office as it is right now, especially once Sandy's 2 years are up. We don't know where the Mets are going to be by then, but this definitely is a good start. It is a step in the right direction, so I like this hire, and you just have to like what the Mets have been doing lately. Even getting the Jerry Blevins on the minor league deal. I tweeted, I like Shreve more than Blevins personally, but you know what? What I like is that it's a minor league deal, some lefty depth. Those are the kind of things you have to do. You never know when you may need a left-hander out in the bullpen that is not named Daniel Zamora. So if Jerry Blevins could show you something, he had his good years with the Mets. His last year the Mets wasn't as good, especially at the end of the season, but he has shown that he can perform as a Met. So you definitely can never take that for granted. And that's one of the reasons why I want to keep Shreve. If someone could perform in a Mets uniform, you should try to keep them. That's just the way that I look at it, because we've seen so many players who they come to the Mets and they aren't themselves. We'll see how it goes with James McCann. Can McCann be as good in New York as he was with the White Sox? We don't know yet, but you know what? That's the risk you have to take. You can't just be always taking the safe bet, like, oh, we know this guy is solid, but does he have upside? And I think with Jason McCann, he has upside because he was an all-star in 2019, so you know that this guy can still perform at a high level if he's right. And I just think that he's the guy that he's going to do what he needs to do. He's just a placeholder for Francisco Alvarez, and you know the bigger picture, the bigger plan. Get Springer, maybe get Bauer, or get Brad Hand, or Liam Hendricks. It allows you to do those other things because you're not putting all your money into JT Realmuto. So another thing I like that Steve Cohen did today was handing out the bobbleheads to season ticket holders and just communicating with Met fans, interacting with Met fans, and you could just see every single day that this is a drastically different New York Mets organization. Everything about them is just different, and it all starts with the top of Steve Cohen and what a great job he has been doing and how excited it has made us as Met fans just having these different expectations for the team, because by now, the offseason is over for the Mets in a Wilpon year. Like, we're done. Trevor May, James McCann, bringing back Marcus Stroman, that might even be too much right there. The Mets are not willing to spend that much in free agency. We knew that just looking at previous years. So the fact that they did that, and we know that there's plenty more coming, maybe 2 more big-time free agents, or a big-time free agent and a lot of other quality major league players, which definitely is another possibility. We've been talking about in the comment section today. So the Mets have a lot of different things they could do. They added to the front office. It's definitely a good move, and we'll see what else they decide to do for their front office, because I don't think they're done. One of the last things I want to say is that you have to keep in mind the Mets fired a lot of guys. Like, it wasn't just firing Brodie. They also fired Kyle Baird, Omar Minaya, Adam Guttridge, Jared Banner. I'm probably missing some people. Like, they fired a lot of people in the front office. So those are all other roles that they may have to figure in, because again, you need someone scouting. Like, if there's a player that you want to check out in Florida, you send a scout there. If there's someone overseas you want to check out in the Dominican Republic, you send someone there, and you have to watch your own major league team, so someone has to be there. So guys have to be delegated roles, and I think that that's exactly what Porter's going to help you do. And again, guys, experience, guy knows a thing or two about winning, and that's what the Mets are here to do. They want to win. That is just the whole new mindset and just this new Mets. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until the next one, be safe, be smart, be healthy, and let's go Mets.